moved 95% of the bolts, and the only thing left was the building, and there was no way to verify it. You just load test just the bracket. And then send that. So you don't have to load test the whole fire escape. If you replace all the treads, you don't load test the treads. If you did all the brackets, but the treads are original, it has the old bolts, you only load test the treads. Everybody understand? It's called a partial load test. So it's a full load test because the old thing passed, everything passed, there's no internal rust. That's a full load test on everything, sandbags, cables, everything. Otherwise, you start replacing certain components, you change all the rail bolts on the rail, there's no load test on the rail. So this is what gets written up. It's a 5-year. Excuse my voice. All right, write some of these websites down. NationalFireScapeAssociation.org. We did a class 3 weeks ago at Oakland. All the videos are there. This class next week will be in the same website. We'll give you a disc. We're gonna give Mary a disc and access to this video so that you don't always have to go to the website. You actually can teach this class in the future, and either everybody gets a stick of it and they can just watch it at home. 2 years from now, you don't have to have another class. They can just watch the same class if they wish. Otherwise, we'd love to give you updated classes. So NationalFireScapeAssociation.org. Click on seminars. There's confidence tests in there. Not yours exact one, but the same 25 questions. And you don't have to register. You don't have to put your name. You don't have to put your social. You don't have to give $1. You don't have to do anything. It's all open source. Nothing's copywritten, so you can steal and put your label on it. You're good to go. This is very similar to, does anybody know who invented the airbag? Mercedes did. Mercedes could have patented it, but instead of patenting it, they gave it to the whole world. And they said, Mercedes, why did you do that? You could have made billions selling patent rights for airbags. It was too important for us to be the only company with airbags in our cars. So fire escapes, it's too important, for anything to be copywritten. It's just open source. Just get it out there. Now you know. If you apply a little bit of what you learned here today, you'll save 1 tenant, you'll save 1 fireman, or maybe 10 tenants, 10 firemen. Or maybe you're gonna be, and I should say, which is great that I got properly corrected, firefighters. Everybody's gonna be protected. Got it? All right. So, NationalFireScapeAssociation.org, you don't have to register, just get in. Everything, news stories, everything you can imagine. You can just sit there all day, but this video will be on this page within a week to 10 days. But you get your own hard copy. The second one is YouTube. Type in Fire Escape Inspection San Francisco. 500 videos on there. So if some engineer says, well, how do you want me to inspect it? Someone says, I don't know what to do. You say, dude, you have a computer? He or she can just go online, type in Fire Escape Inspection San Francisco, and there's hundreds of videos up. Open source. And what are we looking for? The 5-year people are looking externally or internally? The 5-year guys, structural guys looking at the internal connection or the external? Internal. The 908 guys, they're looking at the external. Surface rust, interior rust. All right? So, YouTube, it's right there. So watch. Every time you get a report, we always include photos and a video walkthrough. What do you want to see from anybody inspecting a fire escape? You want to read through mounds of paper, or you want a quick cheat note video walkthrough? The way we do it, we walk up taking photos, and we walk down finger pointing. This is no good, this is no good, this is no good. Which one do you want to watch? So we can send you a copy, and from there you know which way it's going to go, right? And that's pre-load test evaluation. The initial evaluation is not the 5-year. It's just is it ready for load testing or is it ready for repairs? If it's ready for load testing, So you get the load test. If it's ready for repairs, what are you waiting for now? A permit or this thing to show up? Looks like you're gonna need repairs. He goes, yeah, I'm gonna stop. I got a guy who's gonna, no. What's the report? Your engineer will control that guy you get. That repair guy you get. Make sure he's following the engineer guidelines. It's inch and a half thick. With videos and photos. The difference on this one, not every company's gonna do this. If we have a 5-story, at the top 5-story, it's a video per platform, per stair, all the way to the ground. In the initial evaluation, very quickly, 7 to 10 minutes, boom, these things. But in an EO, aside from photographs and the full detail, it's also every single connection is talked. So can a vendor ever tell you didn't tell me? If the engineer is going to show up 3 to 5 times during the process, can they ever say you didn't tell me? Your license requires you to do things above and beyond whatever they find anyway. Because they're there for 3 hours, you're there for 30 days. You know what I'm saying? So there's a reliance. Okay, so that's on YouTube. Type in the name of your specific website is called FireEscapeLaddersSF.com. FireEscape, no S. FireEscape Ladders with an S. So FireEscapeLaddersSF.com. So we have a FireEscapeOakland.com, we have a FireEscapeSeattle.com, we have a FireEscapeLA.com. But right now it's FireEscape Ladders SF because you were concentrating constantly on this 1-year ladder inspections. That's why we named it that. We also have the same website called FireEscapes, now with an S, FireEscapesCalifornia.com, and that's for all the other cities that don't have a program. But all the websites look exactly the same. And if they're gonna ask you questions, because a lot of where do I get this information? It's right there. But look at the beauty. You scroll down to inspections and detail. 1 second. Schedule an inspector. You see that? You click on that. And what it tells you, it's going to tell you everything you ever need to know about a fire escape. It starts with first, how much do people pay? Well, what most closely resembles your fire escape? So it's open pricing, meaning everybody gets to see the pricing. So from a 1-story to a 20-story, it's all in there, right? Scroll down some. There's examples here of inspections with reports and photos. There's inspections of videos. There's news reports, there's load testing. And at the very bottom, there's frequently asked questions. So if you're inspecting, if you're repairing or replacing, you can self-educate right now. And if somebody says, I don't know what to do, he says, then you don't want to know. But everything's right there, got it? Don't need to register. Our competitors use these websites to their advantage. But that's okay. We're saving the tenant, we're saving the firefighter, can't say it. Not just firemen, firefighters. And firewomen is up, firefighter. Okay? So these frequently asked questions are there for a reason, because we tell people when you call to get a second price, ask them frequently asked questions. So now our clients are asking other vendors some of these questions, and we say if they can't answer the question, don't hire them. So is the market fair out there? Because all the questions are out, right? When you go to the top corner, it says menu. Right? Top corner. There's menu there that covers schedule, certification, repairs, codes. Gonna go down to codes. Specific only to San Francisco. You scroll down. Your entire 604 and 908 is there. Everything is there. Links back to your websites is there. At the very bottom, the IFC code is there, IBC codes are there, NFPA code is there, OSHA code is there. Any questions? If you're gonna be in this business, you better know your stuff, and it already exists. And as you can see, Firescapes California, for some other cities, San Mateo, Alameda, if they don't have a program, it's the exact same website. So we've been at this for many, many years. Problem is it hasn't been properly enforced, and sometimes it's been in the wrong hands. So for 100 years, it's been where? Building department. It just made it to fire code when? 2012. When did you finally adopt it? 2020. Are you even adopted today? No. Why does it take so long? Usually that means you have to have some blood on the ground. Some blood on the ground, right? So don't wait. Because will it happen? In San Francisco, there'll be some blood on the ground. If we don't get on top of this. Is it a tenant or a fireman or both? Let's see. There's a great ordinance you guys should put out that will fast track fire escapes. Okay? It's a little controversial, but what it is all rent checks now must be collected through the fire escape, because you tape it to the outside of your window. And only the owners of the building, not their agents, can collect the rent. Right? So everybody who is paying rent in a building that has a fire escape, you put it in an envelope, you duct tape it to the outside of your glass. And then you call the landlord and say, my rent check is ready. And that should be a great ordinance, because just a few times the landlord goes through his own fire escape, I think he's gonna protect himself to collect the rent, I'm sure. So that's the rent ordinance, but I don't think that's gonna fly anytime soon. We also have a Dropbox, and so we can start putting some of these on Dropboxes. We have a lot of fire escape inspections that we've done over the past 15 years that are questionable, that we need to get back to you guys, because we've tried sending it to housing and it fell upon deaf ears, right? But if we send you a notice that says, hey, we've looked at certain buildings here, it had issues and it needs some work done, you guys need to now sort of look back and say, how many of these 604s have been signed by the wrong people, which would make the fire escape suspect? Because if nobody's watching that signature, all right? And is there a document for a 908? No. There's no city document for a 908. So some of the local guys even created their own document. I've looked at the fire escape under a 908. But the 604 is supposed to be signed by who? If they've been truly supposed to be done by the construction engineers or architects or others, right? Acceptable to the building official. But you're gonna see some of these have been signed by people who shouldn't be signing these things. Because they don't have a license, they don't have insurance, they don't have the qualification. So we have a sheet now for a 908 questionnaire that may or may not be adopted. And we have a questionnaire for the 1104 that can be used as the beginning of a 604, correct? Specific only to fire escapes, right? So will we need to have two documents when we're dealing with 604s? Housing needs a 604 because it's an ordinance still there. Do they still need it?
Yeah.
Will you accept a 604 now in lieu of a 1104? Or is it not strong enough? So because it's not strong enough, you just need to add the 25-point questionnaire on top of that. So whenever you're handed a 604, just send the document back, give it right back to the client. Yeah, this is good, thank you very much. Keep that 604. And the owner or the engineer of record, whoever's speaking with you, hand them a 25-point questionnaire and say, fill this out with this so I can staple the two together. Because the document I just hand you will get you off my 1104 violation. And this 604 could be what? Could be longer. Is that your problem? Because you've taken care of your 1104 here. The 604 is here because the 604 has not been, they're not doing 100% of the 604. They're not doing corridors. They're not doing full egress checks, correct? They're not doing any wood structures, verifying that they've been properly reinforced, correct? So we gotta help housing make that a little stronger. So our 1104 questionnaire, could it be a good questionnaire also for the 604? Is it gonna be embraced right away? So 1104 is just a fire escape for now. We'll deal with 604. So from here forward, we're gonna have two now or no? Could it merge into one in the future? Maybe. If it never does, will you take a 604 to, in lieu of 1104 violation? It's nice to have, but you may have a 604 given to you with a wrong signature on it. You're like, you're one of those pest inspector, structural special guy, remember? Yeah, we don't accept you. But go out and get a structural engineer to sign our 25-point questionnaire. We'll staple it to it, and now we've got it. Because who has insurance? Because this is all about, because the 604, some of the signatures you're getting, do they have a insurance for structural questions? So, if you want somebody to go to court because there's a dead tenant or fireman on the ground, who do you want in court paying the bills? The pseudo people, contractor, inspecting out of improper inspecting, or you want a structural engineer with all the licenses, insurance? So it's not that the 604 is inadequate, it just needs to revamp so people know there was supposed to be more things happening here. We need to get that back up to speed because it got soft. Right? Housing just received the document. Building inspectors were not really jumping on top of it to make sure, and you guys just got a wind of it that there was a 604 somewhere over there, and you sure? I think good to go. Clear? All right, so does anybody remember the address for the Philippine Center?
Yeah, 445-447
You know
Sutter.
You know the job number?
Offhand, 4336, I believe, in Dropbox. Off the top of my head.
As you can see, we have some fire escapes from all over the country here, but I'm just trying to get, because we can watch the video on that one.
It's in that area, 4336, I believe.
Four 336.
I believe it is.
Is it not under any of these? Because
Yeah,
we only
it's,
under current cases, maybe?
yeah, other current cases.
Doesn't go that high.
Go back to fire escape services. And then, yeah, fire escape services. Go into specialists. Okay, good.
Current cases.
Yeah, there it is. Up there, first one. And it should be now 36 area. There it is. 4325. Go up to the top. Keep going. Right there. Sorry, folks.
So Alan did this inspection.
The major repairs.
I'm just gonna move it forward quickly.
The one in the front's the
Certified fire escape inspector. I'm here at platform system number 2 at the 400 block of Sutter Street, San Francisco. So in order to certify this fire escape, must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. It's a pass-fail video. This will not pass today. It's definitely needs some paint, and there's some issues that I will point out to you. Certainly not as same condition as the one, system number 1 in the front. That one's got much more issues than this one does. This is pretty typical of what we find in California. So in order to certify this fire escape, it is going to need to be painted, and it is going to be partial restoration or full restoration in lieu of a load test or a load test. Don't think will be third option is provide an opinion affidavit letter stating to the best of our opinion, knowledge, and belief that this fire escape is ready for its intended use. But that has to be accepted by the city, and it needs to, your insurance carrier needs to approve that as well. And we have to hold harmless the city and fire escape engineers. So I'm going to start with our video, get it pass-fail. Ladder to the roof is in good order. Again, this needs paint. This, this kind of feeling will, can hurt someone's hand using it to punch through. Maybe you could use a little bit more stiffener back to the wall, but not any issues that I see. So this is not, again, it's a pass-fail video. It's not a repair report. We're just pointing out where the issues are. We're not saying how many or everything that's here, but so you can see there's a little bit of surface rust on some of these connections, which could mean that there's interior rusting on these railings. As we go down, again, this is stringer clips appear to be in better order, but all original hardware. We want to probably take a look at that, clean out any rust that may be occurring, or replace these bolts. Again, peeling paint. It is a galvanized system, so not a lot of internal rust, but there is some places that it is going internal. You can see here, this is much better than the system condition we have in the front. You've got these 4-inch C-channels that cantilever into the building, so we're going to need to just seal that, but I don't see any incidents of too much water infiltration. We're in a pretty narrow area here, so it's pretty well protected. But you know, you can just see they're starting to get some rust occurring here. So we want to come in here and clean this out. If we do take it apart, so we want to remove any rust, prime it, scrape it, prime it, paint it, and caulk it, and replace these rivets with a new bolt, either new bolts or just leave them in place and add one new bolt. Again, railing's in pretty good order, it needs paint. Connections back to the building look pretty good. Connections up top look good. So, you know, platform out of the second floor that doesn't go anywhere. There's no way to get out on this roof or walk to the roof out here. There's nothing. It just drops off right there. Kind of a dangerous condition. I don't know if these windows here were meant to be used as part of the egress, but there's no way to, you know, there's just no way to get out of here. I don't know what the answer is. So that's going to probably need to be taken up with AHJ, but again, pre-existing non-conforming. So anyway, that's going to complete my inspection. If you have any questions, Fire Escape Engineers, 866-649-0333.
Load tests still may be required by the AA.
And so, they also give you a slideshow. So, the intent is the 5-year guide gives you as much information as you need to how to speak with the client. You failed pre-load test evaluation. You're missing a drop to the ground. It's important for you guys to know that you're not only can your men not get on, people in this building can't get off. Right? It sort of raises the level of attention that you need to get to some of these buildings. And it's video. I mean, it's pretty common sense. This is not even the EO report. This is just a pass-fail. It's very clear what needs to be done. There's no like, because sometimes people try to use this as a repair video to go get bids. There's not enough information on this. So you gotta be careful. Sometimes initial reports are being sent out as full repair videos. They're not. Because you're gonna control that, because now this is a failed, it needs repairs, you're awaiting a report. Who's gonna watch this vendor? Questions so far? Now this is the front. A little crazier, Alan, on the front.
Required by the AHJ.
Fire escape inspection summary video. This is Inspector Alan Toll, a licensed architect, certified fire escape engineer. I'm here at the property at the 400 block of Sutter Street, San Francisco. It's a preload test inspection. It's a pass-fail inspection. It's not a repair report. In order to certify this fire escape, we have a couple of options. We could load test it if we feel it is safe enough to be load tested at this time, which it is not. We can do a full restoration, which is what I would suggest for this fire escape, which would include replacing all the bolts and connections, and there's numerous areas of structural deterioration. Some of it may be a little bit decorative. We have to dig deeper a little bit and study that, but I will show you that as I move down the platform. This is I believe it's 5 platforms and a ladder to the roof, as you can see here. In order to certify the fire escape must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. This fire escape is not painted. It's going to need a full paint job. You can see it is galvanized underneath, but there is certainly areas of rust that is going internal. You can see all the peeling paint on the surfaces, missing a part of the railing there. And you can see how this has not been painted for quite a long time. So most likely it was painted pre-1978, which if that's the case, they had an EPA renovator's license when they needed to do any work on this fire escape as far as painting goes. No welding is allowed for any of the connections. So, moving along, again, and the other option, we're not going to provide an opinion affidavit on this project. It's too far gone. It needs way too much work. I don't see any life safety issues, but let me kind of point out what we're seeing. There's the way that this is, you've got your typical 1-inch slats over these beams that go back into the building. And at the masonry area, I'm going to show you, there is water infiltration, there's rusting occurring, deterioration on the structural support. But then there's this piece that goes all the way across the front. And some of that, we have to determine what structurally that is, but the other side of this member on every platform is all deteriorated. I will show you that. The railings are in relatively good order again, just need some paint. So I'm going to stop this for just a moment and then move on. Okay, continuing on, as I was saying, I'm going to start moving my way down. I probably won't film on every level, but trying to point out the typical conditions. You can see here, lots of rust occurring. I'm assuming there's going to be internal rust on this. The platform below the railing is actually loose. So the string clips look okay. Again, original hardware, I would think we'd want to take those apart, take those out, and clean out any rust, internal rust. Spray prime paint and caulk it. Coming down, and then this is what my main concern is. You can see a lot of these are decorative supports, brackets, they need repainted. I don't really think they're structural, because what you've got is this beam that goes back into the building, but these beams are suspect. It's definitely rotting from rust. You can see here all the paint peeling rust that's occurring. But the main issue that I see is all along here. All of this is all rusted out. And, not really supporting much other than maybe the balcony railing, but it's definitely going to spread. This may all just be decorative, but that's all going to have to be removed, taken a look at, most likely. Because any rust that's left untreated will continue to grow. The connections to the stair treads, from the treads to the stringers are in relatively good order. I don't see much incidence of internal rust, but again, all original hardware. I'd like to see these cleaned out and inspected, and possibly a new bolt going through. Down here. So we're down on the next layer. You can see all the paint is peeling, and all these connections are rusted. I'm going to check the connections back to the building. Some of them are suspect. Again, original hardware, typical slab in for a few moments. And I'll be back in just a moment. On this system, we need to check all these bolts. Full restoration is going to need to be done. Stringer clips look okay, but again, we're going to verify those through bolts and seal those openings in the wall. And you can see just a lot of paint that's going to be done. you can see here, I can get the lighting properly, that this whole underside of the platform railing is all rusted. Trying to get that in there. You can see, I move it kind of slowly. You can see right there, and that's on every platform. Dropped the ladder, but it looks like it has not been serviced. I don't see any sticker on it that it's been serviced in the last year, so before we pass it, it has to be, to make sure that this is tested. That can be done by a company locally, and make sure that it's been greased properly, the cable's in good order, all the mechanism is in good order. You know, I never like to see anything like this. But other than that, I mean, it's again, original hardware. So the system is definitely going to need a little bit of loving care and some work. If you have any questions, Fire Escape Engineers, 866-649-0333.
Load test still.
So, 604, what is it, 6 units and above? Did 604s ever really take care of mid-rise? Is it applied? Or did people call us and say, it doesn't apply to me? There's nothing in the fire code says you have to do my high-rise, correct? How many times have we heard that? Now you have the 1104 for high-rise, mid-rise, in some of these hotels. Where they fall in, are they part of the 604?
I see the 604s as residential and they include hotels and motels.
That's right, that's correct. The smaller ones.
I didn't read the whole code, but I seen the
You are
four.
correct.
They mentioned hotels, motels, and apartment houses.
Right. But there's some stuff in the gray area that's not there.
Commercial institutional
Are not in there. So now your 1104 is picking that up. Guys got it? So with this need for further clarification, but let's talk about this inspection. Is it clear? Is there enough evidence in there that a report is needed? So you got a video clip, we got hundreds of these. You know who we used to send it to? Housing. You know who's called us back? So Mary, would you like a copy of every report we've ever sent to housing? Would you like a fresh copy of it? Because some of it applies to the high rises, to the mid rises, to the hotels, to the motels. And you know what they've done because there was no enforcement?
Who did you call?
At housing?
Yeah.
Well, we called housing and say, who's the inspector that wrote the violation? And we would forward it to them and say, please forward this report, this result of this report. But we never got a call back.
I'm a housing inspector. I've never gotten one myself. I was just curious who you talked to.
Well, we always, first we reach out to fire, we always reach out to housing, building department, we never call because they keep saying it's back to housing.
They don't enforce the 604. Only housing enforces the 604. And it is only residential. So if it's a commercial building, we don't touch it.
So you're not touching hotels and motels?
We do, that's residential. We do hotels and motels.
Okay.
But if it's an office building, then no.
Would that be
But
a
now,
building?
now where's that picked up?
But then, and I don't know where that's picked up because
Where?
that's probably you guys.
Oh no, it was never.
That's
That
the
gray
problem.
area, but now where is it in 2020? 1104. So you see how he just told you that 604 doesn't cover, you know, office buildings of any size, 1 story, 2 story, 20 story, every 2 story, 20 story, 30 story that has a fire escape on it, that has no residential in it, has never been inspected. Unless voluntarily the owner said, what? I'm concerned, come check the fire escape.
Or schools.
Or schools.
So no schools have ever been.
Otherwise they're getting a call that says, I don't have to comply. How many of those we get?
Too many.
I don't, show me where. We've never had anything in fire. We haven't never had anything in building. And I can't imagine, I can tell you how many people have called us and said, this is a residential requirement. I'm not residential. So you see the gray area that San Francisco has been facing? So unless there was voluntary compliance from owners of these other buildings, they've never been touched. Concerned? Okay.
Then you have systems like that. Then you have systems like that one that are out there.
Right, and so this is the Philippine Center. Okay? And so, how long ago did we inspect it? A year and a half ago?
No, it hasn't been that long. It's been 5 months, 2 weeks.
Only 5 months that those gaping holes have been there, guys. Don't worry, I'm sure you're not gonna go out and do anything for the Philippines at this time.
You can see them tomorrow.
But you know why? You know why nothing's, it's not that we haven't done or tried to make it a concern. Is that there's no enforcement, there's no gun from the fire, there's no gun from the building, and we just found out today there's no gun from housing. What would you do if you own that building and there's no requirement or enforcement, there's no fines, there's no fees, there's nothing coming? Would you spend money right away or say, if it ain't broke?
It's huge liability for the building owner.
Insurance. That's what they think. How many fires happen anyway? This is that gray area that we've uncovered for you to say it just needs to be revamped. So build a fire, you've just closed up the gray area. Building, housing, we need to strengthen this because there's some other requirements that they were in the 604 that everybody's ignored beyond that. So we need to strengthen that up. You weren't here at the beginning of the class, but we did a great questionnaire for the 908 and the 604. We did 2 drafts. That draft is basically 1104, but it's a stronger 604, so we recommend that you coordinate with Mary. Our contact was Joe Lopez.
Right.
He was supposed to put a class together. That's who reached out to us the last time. And then Mary and I got involved, and Mary just put it together faster. But housing and building was invited to this class. But thank you for coming, though. All right, questions so far? So this second half is, we're watching videos, and we have, but it's really a question now about, that the information is out there, what can we do for you guys now? What kind of questions do you have regarding implementation, regarding liability, regarding mayors, city councilmen? What's your questions that you guys have? Because we can also talk about liability and how I've gotten over $100 million in payouts. Because as soon as the insurance companies get wind of this, they don't care about your codes. They're gonna say, get this properly certified in the next 30 days or we shut down your building. You guys understand? That when the insurance company comes into play, and they're monitoring this as we speak. But what kind of questions do we have that I can answer? Excuse my voice. Don't be shy. Regarding rust, what the inside of the tubes look like. Well, testing.
We're low on the totem pole here. It seems like there's a lot of people way higher than us who would have to buy into it and implement it.
I don't think they have a choice. It's already in the code. You just didn't realize you're supposed to be enforcing it. So there's no buy-in. It already exists. It's waiting there. Just like the housing had a 908 and a 604, and when it was originally written, it had a purpose because they wrote it with a purpose. And they expected everybody to act professionally on the other side. And what did they do instead? They acted unprofessionally with it, and not really going through the whole gamut of what the law said there, right? And then as more and more people got out of it, who stayed behind? The one-year people that were doing the typical 908, which is a testing. They started doing some inspecting. And nobody was watching, so what did they do? It just kept going. And who can get into it? Owners agents, not licensed, contractors could get into it. Structural pest control guys can get into it. Who else? Right? So it's already.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If nobody was watching, who wasn't watching?
Well, again, this has always been under the control of the building for 100 years. This ordinance was written by housing, who says we have a problem 25, 40 years ago.
I believe it was an ordinance passed by the Board of Supervisors, and they stipulated that there's 5 professions that can sign the 604.
Correct.
And they have to have current licenses to sign. And generally, I see about 90% of them are general contractors that I can. And you can look that up on their website. I mean, California's good about making that accessible. Some of the other ones are a little harder to look up, but you're right. Structural pest control is one of them. Architects another. Structural engineer is another. But they have to have a current license to sign it. So, you know, it's on them if the inspection isn't good.
But some of these 1 years have been passing as 5 years.
No, they gotta fill out the 604. So, I mean, you know, if they give you a 1-year certification, all they're saying is that they tested the thing and it works, and they can drop it to the street, and that's really just the mechanical part of it. And the owners can do it themselves. You know, they can show us. One of the options is they can drop it right in front of us.
Yeah, we covered that this morning, yeah.
But with the 604, they have to fill that out.
And their 604 form requires them to put their license number and what they are.
Yeah, it's gotta be on there.
Correct. But what
And
we're
scan
saying
them
to
too.
you is that all the stickers we're seeing on the fire escapes are not the 604s.
No, they're not.
They're 1 years.
The 604 is the form that we get. And if you go to our website, actually, on the DBI website, there's a list of everybody who's turned one in. And it'll show you the date that they turned it in, and they're good for 5 years. So
Right.
they gotta do it once every 5 years. And a lot of people, they lapse. Usually we don't get them until we do a routine inspection,
Right.
and then we hit them with it, and they're like, what the hell is this? And it's like, well, you know, when they passed the ordinance, I'm told they just mailed them to every owner of every property, residential. And, you know, didn't get a lot of them back. So, you know, it only happens when we do inspections that we get.
Right.
Every
Well,
once in a while, you'll get them randomly, they get mailed.
What
to
we're
us.
finding, and we're finding some contractors stepping into what we're finding is that these 5 years are not being properly inspected, other than by structural engineers and architects, and even sometimes they are not doing a drive-by, flash-by. You know, we call it roll down the window, give me $500, sign it and go. But it's putting a lot of liability on a lot of risk on the firefighters. So we need to stiffen that up, because under the 1104, now it needs to be load tested or other evidence of strength. So we created 2 questionnaires, and I think you got a copy of one. The questionnaire will show you the 1 year is representative of what 908, what questions they should be answering. And again, you get a copy of the recording at the end of this. The 604 is our 5 year, and you look at all the questions. Most architects and engineers will sign that document because they have the right insurance and they have the right coverage. Most contractors won't sign that. Most pest control guys won't sign. Once they realize what they're really signing on to, because a lot of times they'll sign on something if they don't really know the full gamut of what they're signing on. But once you show them what you're really agreeing to, in lieu of load test, I ain't gonna sign this. Well, you've been doing it for 15 years. I'm not gonna sign it anymore. And should their insurance company find out what they're signing on? It's another way of them saying we're not gonna do it anymore. Because our insurance audit that we did, they're finding out that we're signing on these structural things as a general contractor, and our insurance is about to get canceled or just went up triple. So the rule of thumb is this: inspection companies can inspect but can't repair. Repair companies can repair but can't inspect. An owner can have, somebody can have 2 companies. An inspection company that has insurance, licenses, and also on a repair company that repairs, and has to be separate. But can they do it together? No. Are they doing that now? So is a contracting company going out, inspecting, and then repairing it too? Yes, you can't do that. Insurance won't allow it. The only reason why they're still doing it is because the insurance doesn't even know about it. Okay? That's why you don't see architects inspecting and showing up with a tool bag the next day. Alright, so, and additional questions? Regarding implementation, regarding code, clarification. I'll continue on with a couple of points regarding rust jacking. The 5 years are looking for this. The 5-year guys are looking for internal rust that is visible. There's deflection, deterioration. Because inside this connection, this is what it looks like. It started out as 3/8, it's down to a 16th. Does he have to tear that apart to tell you? No. The fact that there's internal rust already is a fail. He doesn't need to see this. By seeing this, he knows that this is what's in there. 908s, look at the paint job. Structural engineer looks underneath it. As you saw the video, Alan was walking through and he's like, I'm really concerned about this into the wall. So 5-year guys look underneath. So sadly, sometimes the contractors look at this. They don't have the insurance or the expertise to look at this, but they can be guided by a structural engineer or an architect on how to change this bolt out. But if it's on their opinion whether or not they change this bolt, what happens? What's faster? Changing this bolt or painting this? So this is what's happened over 100 years. It was a lot easier for the welding witch doctors and the paint witch doctors to do that. And the structural stuff just kept getting glossed over. So on the 604, I think they need to revamp it to say structural engineers or others acceptable, but no longer general contractors. Tell us what is the specialties, pest control, structural?
Yeah, it's general contractor, structural engineer, structural pest control.
What is that? Who is that?
It's somebody that they specialize in probably working with termites more than anything else, but I don't get too many of those. Honestly, almost everyone we get is from a general contractor or a structural engineer. Almost always general contractor.
Perfect.
Sometimes you get one from a structural engineer. I've seen structural pest control. We didn't pick it, but it's on there. They can't.
So some of the names that I've seen up there, Chris Construction is signing off on these.
Who?
Chris Construction Company.
Christopher
Construction.
Yeah.
RC.
RNS.
RNS.
Yeah.
So
Are their licenses expired?
oh, I don't know. I'm just saying. These construction. So again, they don't have the training on what to look for structural. I think this.
Well, the way it was written, we have to go with if they have those licenses.
Oh, I know. I
and
totally agree.
And I've returned them to people because the license is expired. Or there's one company in particular, I can't think of the name, where they got their license revoked in about 10 years ago, and they're still trying to sign them.
Okay. Oh,
but we are supposed to check them out.
Well, it's been clarified a little bit more because guys on fire, who can sign such a document? Not the 604. Who can sign your document? Design professional or others. So what's this? So housing says contractors can sign the 604. Will you let a contractor sign your 1104? Pest control guy? You let a pest control guy sign on a structural. Okay. I think they even have civil engineers. You guys let a civil engineer? He's licensed. Right? Architects?
Yeah.
Yes. Architects? Who else is on there?
Structural engineer?
Yeah. You know, engineer, you know, everybody's a civil engineer. Structural is in some states is a specialty of an engineer. Everybody's a PC. And then you can get a structural, which is separate license in some cases. But otherwise, if they're an engineer, design professional, so you can have architects and design. So their 1104 is very clearly stated, design professionals are others acceptable to the building official. So in some cases, if you show up with a 604 and you hand it over to them to satisfy a violation that they have on the 1104, which is brand new, they've just adopted, January 1, 2020, will you take a 604 signed by a contractor? Will you take the 604 signed by a contractor, countersigned by a structural engineer? Because their requirements, they're saying, these are the only people that can sign ours. You have extras. This has been around for 40 years, right? 40?
I don't think so, but I don't know. It's been around for
25,
10
at
years.
least 25, right?
I
It came out in the 70s or 80s.
I can't say.
Jordan.
I thought it was more recent than that, but I'm not sure when it started.
It's in the, you know, in the codes, it actually says when the code came out. I don't recall right off the second. You guys remember? Alan, you remember?
I'm sorry, but
I think Jabal answered that last time, didn't he?
He did. I can look it up real quick.
the 908
No,
was,
that's okay,
the
but-
908 was in 89.
That's the 1 year.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty. So you guys have seen a little bit, again, 604, residential, hotels and motels. What do you call it, office buildings?
No.
'Cause every time an office building says, who's making me do this? Them? You mean have a code? Building? Nope. So they just told Mary, hey, forget about it, I'm not doing nothing. And Mary, what do you have to say? They took advantage of a gray area. What about now? January 1. High rises. 604 for high rises. 604, I mean. So this is great. So now we kind of found out what the meaning of that. It was really for, they came in, they said, we really need to get this housing thing under control residentially. There's a lot of people here sleeping and living. So we need all the residentials to have a 604. Forget about commercial and all this other stuff. And we really need hotels and motels to, if they have a fire escape, to do a 604. Everybody else, building and fire will take care of it. And building and fire, you even have a code for it. So for all these years, there's a small sector of the market that was properly being done, and another sector of the market that wasn't even touched. Thanks for that clarification, that helped a little bit, because everyone's like, do I need two, do I need one, what do we need? Right? For the others, it's here, for the 604s, it's here, but some of the times the 604 and the 1104 is gonna cross, especially when it comes to residential hotels, motels. But sometimes their 604 is signed by a contractor. You take his paper, can they countersign his paper? The structural engineer or architect, then we're good to go. They have a questionnaire, the 5-year questionnaire. It really scares the hell out of everybody. So the questionnaire puts all the liability 100% on the structural engineer and the architect, nothing on the city. How welcoming is that to a city official? It says you will never be dragged into court on a fire escape related incident. So that's the questionnaire. You cannot, on the 908, be dragged into court because it's a testing. It's after a confirmed, properly done 604. A 908 is just as a testing. A 604 is an inspecting. A 908 is a testing. You don't go to court. As a matter of fact, 908s identify things within a 5-year cycle that happen. Trees hit the thing, trucks hit the thing, earthquakes broke up my building, and I know it picks those up. But they don't do any of those inspections. They just say, I see something that's out of the ordinary. It needs a new 604 or an 1104. Additional questions?
Why can't we use the code for reliability of the egress system to try to maintain
Under fire or building?
under fire?
Didn't have a 5-year-old, so every code is,
It's not a 5-year, but just maintenance.
it is. It relies on you
Reliability.
purposely write it up. Under this one, whether you need it or not, there's a 5-year cycle. Like curse. Because elevators are great. Why do you keep testing these elevators? They're great, they worked yesterday. Why do you force me to inspect this? Is it 3 years or every 5? Elevators. Load testing, I think it's every 5, isn't it? Okay, sprinkler systems. Sprinkler systems have a 5-year, and they have a 1-year. Why keep testing? They're great, they're great. Whether they need it or not, the cycle is what keeps it honest. Fire escapes have never had an honest cycle for how long? 100 years. They came in and tried to save it, but for who? Residents, apartments, residents, hotels, hotels. If you work in an office building, not my problem. Not just here, 50 states. 50 states don't even have a 5-year and a 1-year like you had in San Francisco. You did something, just didn't reach far enough. So we'd love to do a class with housing and building. Further clarify that, because right now they are picking up the other gray area. So all commercial, what's not commercial? Every commercial. Every office complex. Everything that has a fire escape, now what? If it doesn't have a sprinkle of residential in it, right? You guys own it? Warehouses, commercial, industrial, right? That's it. 1104. More questions? It's a tough crowd. I have to give myself my own questions. Is that what it is? I'm gonna wrap this up.
There was in reference to discussion about welding before, although it's not allowed, but then there was a comment later about how certain elements of the fire escape system could be welded and then applied, or what was, can you clarify that?
Great question. So you can shop weld railings and treads components, but when you get to the field, you gotta bolt it together. You can't bring a welding machine to a site and weld it. You could, but here's the restrictions. Must be a certified welder with the state. Fire watch. Special inspections before, during, and after the welding. So all the guys who are there welding, you need to have a special inspector. The welding guy must know what to do with certain kind of material when there's new welding of steel and old steel being welded. And even then, a certified welder cannot weld rust in a connection. And as soon as you break the bolt and put a new bolt and prep it for welding, you need a weld. If I broke it open, I put a new bolt in it, do I need a weld? Or do I break this connection, take out the old bolt, take out the rust, clamp it shut so a guy can clean weld it? Does that make any sense? So 99% of all the fire escapes ever built in the US are bolted fire escapes. For what reason? 2 connections. They heat up in the summer and do what? They cool down in the winter and do what? California, you guys have something else called if you weld it shut, what happens? They snap. So bolts, stretch, and that's proven. But welds snap after 1/16 of this welded connection. Even if they put a 3/8 rod in here and welded this part to that part, after 1/16 growth, a year or two from now, are those welds suspect? It rips microscopically. It snaps every weld. Why? So what's better? If you're gonna cheat a client and you're gonna leave rust behind, change the bolt, weld it. Change the bolt, even if you're gonna leave all the rust behind. Because that new bolt is gonna stretch for how long? And scream. It'll scream for 5, 10, 15 years. But a weld connection, a welded rusted connection will scream for 5, 10, 15 months only. Clear?
And it's almost like with welds that are certified, they're designed as well. So, you know, engineers designing the weld, the welder knows what to do with that design. And when we talk about repairs, it's just the guy going up there
Just putting the bandit on.
yeah.
The point that he brought. People who have certified welding skills, many, I think it's a year at least at school to get your certs. And then there's continuing education for that. Most ornamental guys never got certified in welding. Number 2 is when you weld this side, and then you weld the opposite side. As it heats, it actually pushes against the first weld. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can't weld a connection all around. Basically destroy the very weld you put in. And most guys in welding shops, they know how to melt rods. They don't know how to weld. You know what I'm saying? That's the sad thing. My dad's 82. He still has his own shop. He still welds. He still does bolts. He still does. But it's, you know, I never went to when he taught me how to weld, he put a welding rod in my hand, pushed my head along and said, do this, and he went off. And I'm like, if it wasn't my own interest in learning how to weld. So my dad never told me how to weld, but I had a guy who taught a class that I made him teach within our company. He used to run a 50-pound box of welding rods. And he taught us vertical welding, horizontal, you know what I'm saying? He taught us the S, the 8, penetration, overhead welding. And at the end, we still didn't get our cert because he wasn't a certified teacher. But that's when I learned how complex welding really is. Because those guys burn a box of 50 pounds a day. So much so they have to wear a guard because they get cancer if they don't wear the whole protector. You know, they have to have this, because rays, they blind, it'll melt your skin, it'll get all kinds of problems. I don't like welding, but you know, I know how to do it. So we're getting towards the second end of our class, and the most important part here is that everything you need to know is still on the YouTube channel. Thank God for YouTubes. It's on the National Firescape Association.org. Everything's there. This class will be there next week. There's too many Firescapes out there for you to give me all the Firescapes. So is this all for me? You need to put everybody back to work. And who can work? Ornamentals are gonna go back to work. Welding guys are gonna go back to work without welding machines. They have the rest of the tools. Contractors are gonna go back to work because they do all the woodwork. It's contractors. And some of the metal contractors who do metal buildings will pick up a lot of these Firescapes. Okay? And there's hundreds of thousands of these. So you better mobilize the team. And who can inspect this in your own city? You guys got enough architects in the city? Enough engineers in the city? So you got plenty of work for them. The only thing they need is they need to see what the new level is. And so I recommend highly in 3 months, you know, you bring in a class and you bring in everybody that's ever give you a signature or anything, invite them to a class. Just say, hey, we'd like to answer your questions. If you're gonna continue signing these in our city, some new ideas, some new systems, we'll teach another Farscape class. And we'll bring this stuff out, and we'll talk about guidelines and ideas of what they should follow, and turn around and say, go make some money, go fix these fire escapes, tenants are gonna be safer, right? And the fire departments are gonna be much happier, right? So a lot of it's really up to you guys, where you wanna take it next. Because sometimes we do a lot of these classes and it ends right here. It doesn't go one step further. Sadly, sometimes you get a call from the mayor that says, but that doesn't stop tenants and firemen from dying. So, what other questions you have? Good question. Harry, you want to wrap up the conversation here with us or say anything to them?
No. I'm just thinking, one suggestion is we've been asking for building owners to send us a statement of compliance on the fire alarm system. Maybe we should ask them to send the 604 at least, affidavit along with that. That's just one thought in my head.
Yeah, but don't forget, 604 is very specific to residential. You're not getting the rest of your team. Only the 1104 covers residential and commercial office. So your 1104 is much more powerful right now than the 604, but the 604 is just as powerful because it's been around, but it's very specific to residential, apartment buildings, hotels and motels. Then in some cities, it's a touch-off, like they don't touch the residential.
But it's the 604 is something we have to adopt, right? It's not like.
No, it's already there, but they only cover residential. All your high-rise, everything commercial and office space that is not, people don't sleep. Nobody was taking, you weren't touching it, building wasn't touching it, neither was housing. So it was in this black hole that now in January 1, you are picking it up. Whether you like it or not, you own it now. But there'll be some crossover every now and then because you guys will be in a motel, and there is a 604, and there's an 1104 requirement. He'll send over the 604, signed by a contractor, will you accept it? Sends back to the 604, just get a peer review of an engineer's stamp on it, now you accept it. That's all. The question here that we created are just guidelines.
The cities, I think, see it because they don't have the staffing, they don't have that many inspectors to do all the inspections, but besides the budgetary things for the number of inspectors that they have to do this, don't they have like a risk management? So they say,
this is all third-party inspection. You are not inspecting these. You're asking for, it's all these inspections are third-party. There is no need for additional staffing. You put on a checklist, I need a copy. It's a third-party inspection. You do not inspect. You receive the inspection results from a third-party inspector.
Results, yes.
So you don't inspect any of this. You are not asking you to do any of these inspections. It's a third-party inspection.
Okay, just assume like I was not in the fire department. From an outside observation,
as a building owner, or
no, not as a building owner, but say as a city official, not in the fire department, but say a mayor or a councilman or whatever. Don't they have people for risk management that say, how many people actually die from this type of accident? You brought it to the forefront by saying, well, vaping, now people are going and they're using the fire escape more. But that wasn't the case in the past.
Correct.
Now
So
it's getting more coverage now, but in the past, that wasn't the case. And then, the risk management, well, how many people are gonna die in an accident? I mean, it's a bad thing that they're dying. I don't wish that on anybody. But what I'm saying is that, well, we can only afford so many inspectors. I know it's a third party, but
yeah.
Still,
I think
how many buildings do you have in San Francisco, and how many inspectors do you have just in the city of San Francisco for fire departments?
But the same way you collect your taxes without fail.
Yeah.
You're basically doing the same thing now. You just make it a checklist item. The clients they haven't done it for 100 years, so they've saved money for 100 years. But these fire escapes are now not ready for their intended use, instant intended use. So what that means, you're basically just making sure that the tenants are safe so they can pay their rent. The firemen are safe so they can save tenants who pay rent. And the owner's responsibility is to maintain a safe structure, which includes 2 means of egress. They haven't for one small piece of it, and we've now got it back under control. And it's a checklist item during your permit process. It's a checklist item during your 1-year inspections. It's a checklist item, as a matter of fact, even during smoke detectors. When we sign off smoke detectors on re-rents or whatever, it just becomes a checklist item of something you're supposed to have with you anyway, because we're not ordering that test, it already exists. I need a copy of it. And as a matter of fact, I'm at your building, I see a white tag there, I know you have one. But I can't take a picture of this and put it in my file. I just need a copy of it.
Exactly.
And where is it? Fire department has the copy on the fire escape. Oh, what about my corridor stuff? Oh, that's 604. Housing has that one.
Yeah. But you said earlier that when they do this structural test, not to take away from that, I think that's extremely important and very valuable information. But they're not required to check the opening to the fire escape, are they?
Who, on the 5-year?
On the 5-year.
No, but they're supposed to look at all the openings coming to the fire escape, look like they're well maintained. A 604 would be inside, opening and shutting all the windows, checking all the corridors, looking for obstructions of any kind.
Right.
So we need to strengthen the 604 to include more information on the inside. But right now, this 1104 is just outside.
I would have thought that just to access the fire escape, yes, it's internal, but the window or the door leading to the fire escape is also exterior. That would have been included as far as...
I can, because that's interior to the exterior. So it is important. 604 covers it clearly, exit corridors, but it's in the 604. The fire escape now is just outside. So they gave very little credence in the 604 to the fire escapes. You now have a code all by itself on the fire that says, you keep your 604, let's strengthen it up if possible, but right now we need to assure the structural adequacy for the tenants and the firemen.